What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I'm going to be giving you my first month of the NBA season award winners. We're going to go through all the major awards: MVP, Depoy, Rookie of the Year, you know the drill. I'm going to give you who my current frontrunner is if the season ended today, who would win these major awards, and of course I'll give some honorable mentions too, talk about some guys that are involved in the race. I'm not going to get to everybody. If I don't mention someone that you think could be a factor in this race going down the line, make sure you go ahead and comment them down below, but I'll get to most of the guys that I think are currently in the thick of the competition, give my reasoning for all those guys' placement as well, and yeah, should be a fun video. I know it's very early to pick awards. This isn't me saying who's going to win at the end of the season, but right now here's a quick snapshot of what I think the award race looks like. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start things off with Rookie of the Year. Right now it's a two-man race between Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama, and I think it's probably going to continue that way. I thought it was going to be a three-man race between them and Scoot Henderson, but Scoot started a bit slow and obviously has missed a lot of the season due to injury so far. Hopefully he gets back soon, and when he does, I think he'll become somewhat of a factor at the very least in all rookie conversations. But for now, and seemingly like the foreseeable future, it's going to end up being between Chet and Victor Wembanyama. And right now, if you know me, I'm going to go with Chet Holmgren. Yes, I'm a Thunder fan, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but at the same time, he's averaging 17 points per game, 8 boards, over 2 blocks on 50, 40, 90. I believe he'd be the first rookie ever to put up a 50, 40, 90 season. I think I saw a stat on that. If he's not the first, one of the very few, and he's doing that while also anchoring one of the league's best defenses. We're 4th in the NBA in defensive efficiency right now. He's been incredible. I knew he was going to be a perfect fit for this Thunder team, but even me as a big fan of him, I didn't think he was going to be this good this quickly. He's been our second best player, and a lot of people make the argument that he's helped out by having a way better team than the Spurs, and yeah, he does have a great supporting cast, but a lot of things that Chet does, he creates on his own. It's opportunities that he sets up. I mean, you talk about that turnaround three against the Golden State Warriors to send the game to overtime. That was all just Chet being an incredible player. I do think Vic could end up catching up with him in this race and winning it, because right now they're experimenting with some stuff. You know, Jeremy Sohan at the point guard spot, which I think is really hurting Vic. I'd love to see them go with a more traditional ball handler there. And also, I just don't think it's great for Sohan's development either. But regardless, the Spurs are doing some weird stuff right now. I think as the season goes on, Vic will get more comfortable. They'll put him in better spots to succeed, and his numbers could jump up. They could find some more team success. And boom, Vic could be up there winning Rookie of the Year by the end of the season. But for right now, I'm going to lean Chet, and I'm really excited to see these two battle it out for pretty much the rest of the season. Some honorable mentions include Asar Thompson, who is a monster defensively. He's been so much fun to watch. One of my favorite rookies this season. The jumper basically doesn't exist at this point, but ask him to play lockdown defense, he's going to do that. Ask him to be one of the best rebounders in the league. Yeah, he's got that unlocked too. Just an incredible X-Factor type of player. If his jumper ever comes around, he is absolutely terrifying. I also want to go ahead and give a shout out to Cason Wallace, also on the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's been fantastic for us, closed a number of games, played lockdown defense. Another reason why our defense is so good, while also being the best three-point shooter in the league so far this season. Derek Lively's been huge for the Dallas Mavericks over there starting at center. Jaime Jaquez has been great for the Heat. Bilal Coulibaly has been great for the Wizards, one of their very few bright spots so far this season. Brandon Miller's had a really great under-the-radar rookie season after a lot of people didn't even factor him into Rookie of the Year. I think Brandon Miller is certainly an all-rookie caliber player so far. He's been great. It's a loaded draft class. There's a lot of other players I can mention. I think Amen Thompson, when he comes back, will be, in the very least, in all-rookie conversations. It's been an incredible class so far, and I can't wait to see how these guys play the rest of the season. Next, let's go ahead and move on to Defensive Player of the Year, and for this one, I think there's one clear frontrunner at the moment, and it's Rudy Gobert. The Wolves have been the second best defense in the league so far this season, right behind the Orlando Magic for the 1 spot. Gobert is at the center of the whole thing. He's back looking like the Utah Jazz Gobert that was one of the best rim protectors of this entire generation. Feels like he's again blocking shots at a high level, deterring people away from the rim. He's been a force down low, and he's gotten some help from like Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, even Katz holding his own defensively. But Gobert is at the center of the whole thing. If he's not there, the operation doesn't work. He's been one of the biggest reasons why the Wolves are towards the top of the Western Conference, and if he keeps playing like this, the Rudy Gobert trade might have not been that bad. I've really loved what we've seen from him. This is how I thought he was going to play last year instead of his down season, but it feels like Gobert is truly back. Some honorable mentions behind Gobert include Evan Mobley, who is still playing amazing defense, even though the Cavs' defensive efficiency itself has slipped a little bit, which is partially due to some injuries. I think once they get healthy for a significant period of time, that defense will continue to rise up the rankings. You've got Chet Holmgren, who I know I've already given him a lot of love in this video, but he is the rim protector for a top 5 defense. He's been fantastic on that end, so want to give him some love here for DPOY as well. Mitchell Robinson, I think he's been underrated as a candidate over there for the Knicks, holding things down low. Joel Embiid has shown some great defense at times, although it's a bit hit or miss with the offensive load that he carries. I think Jalen Suggs should be in some conversations at the very least for all defense because of how good the Magic's defense has been with him really at the center of that out there on the perimeter. Kristaps Porzingis for a Celtics team that's one of the best defenses. Even Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs aren't good at all defensively, but he individually has been a monster on that end. Also, got to give a shout to Bam Adebayo, who's playing the best basketball of his career, which includes being a menace on the defensive end as always. There's a number of other players I could mention, but those are some of the top candidates in my eyes so far. Next, let's go ahead and do most improved player. For this one, again, I think there's a pretty clear front runner, but there are some very interesting candidates surrounding him. At my one spot is Tyrese Maxey. He went from a player who had never been an all-star to right now playing like a for sure all-star. There's even conversations about him starting in the game at this point, and I think he could make an all-NBA push if he continues to play this way and the Sixers end up being one of the top seeds in the East. It felt like Maxey was due for a jump when James Harden said he really wasn't going to play and they ended up trading him, but this is even far beyond what I was expecting in his first season as this team's second star. He's been fantastic. Points per game have jumped a bunch, averaging near 30. His efficiency is still fantastic. Playmaking has been better than ever. Him and Embiid's two-man game is lethal. He's stepping up defensively too. He's become the future second star of this franchise just like that. And it was clear that Maxey had this type of potential, but it all happening in this first season in this role is what's been most impressive to me. He's been incredible. The Sixers aren't as good as they are, not even close if they don't have Tyrese Maxey. I think there's some other guys who are competing with him for this award, but for right now, if he keeps playing like this, I don't see anybody catching Tyrese. Some of my honorable mentions include Scottie Barnes, who's been the Raptors' best player. He's really emerged as their franchise cornerstone. Feels like he could be an all-star too. Just doesn't quite have the statistical jump that Maxey does at this point. Cam Thomas is another interesting candidate. He was averaging around like 27-ish points per game before an injury. If he comes back and is again playing like that, I think he's going to get a lot of love for this conversation, could even get in some all-star talks, although the Nets haven't been fantastic, so I don't know if he ends up actually making the game. But if you want to talk about pure just jump statistically, Cam Thomas is one of the top guys in that regard. And also Alperen Şengün, who's become the Rockets' best player. He's finally being used as the offensive hub that it felt like he could be for a while now. He's even holding his own defensively. He's been a big reason why the Rockets have been pretty good on that end, which I thought he was going to be a bit of a liability, but instead, holding his own. Been really impressed with what he's done over there. He's become their best player, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him, with him probably being in all-star conversations at this point in the season. Next, let's go ahead and move on to Coach of the Year. This one is a little bit tough. I think there's two top candidates in my eyes, but I'm going to go with Ime Udoka for the Rockets. This felt like more of a sure thing when they were 6-3. Now they've lost 3 straight games. They've got a game against the Grizzlies tonight as I'm recording this, so chance they can move to 7-6. But at the very least, they're in the midst of the playoff play-in race and going from one of the worst teams in the league pretty consistently over the past few years to this, or they're at least a pretty competent basketball team. I think that's enough to get Ime Udoka at the frontrunner spot at the current moment. He's gotten him to really buy in defensively. Like I mentioned a moment ago with Şengün, he's utilized him as an offensive hub, which has elevated this team. He's gotten these young guys to buy into roles. He's just doing a really good job. It's crazy what a new coach can do to bring in a new culture for a team that had looked like a disaster the past few years, and he's gotten everything to turn around this quickly in just 12 games. The other guy I think that's up there in the conversation is Mark Daigneault of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Finished top 3 in Coach of the Year voting last year, and right now, the Thunder are tied for the 2 seed despite being the 3rd youngest team in the sport. They've got some great players like Shai, Chet, Jalen Williams, etc., but none of this works without Coach Mark Daigneault, who's gotten them to really lock in as one of the best defenses, has gotten them running a great offensive scheme that provides a lot of spacing around Shai. Like, even though the talent is certainly there for the Thunder, none of it works without Coach Mark, who I do think will be in this competition all the way up until the end with Ime Udoka and probably a few other coaches. Some of those other guys include Nick Nurse, what he's done for the Sixers so far this season, getting Maxey to really elevate his game, having them play really well on both sides of the ball so far. They've slipped a little bit as of late, but even still, I think Nick Nurse, if he can get the Sixers to like a 2 seed or something like that, could get some consideration. And also Eric Spoelstra, despite the Heat having missed Tyler Hero for a majority of this season, with them playing really great to begin the year. They started 1-4. They're on a hot streak right now. They're 7-1 over their last 8 games. Young players are playing incredibly well. He's gotten Bam Adebayo to play the best basketball of his career. Spo is pretty clearly the best coach in the league. He made that very clear over last year's playoffs, and I think he should get a lot of consideration for the award because of what he's doing now, but also because he's very deserving of recognition in some way. It's a tragedy he doesn't have a Coach of the Year yet. Heading into our final 3 awards, I want to go ahead and talk about Clutch Player of the Year next. This is one that I imagine will fluctuate a lot throughout the season because clutch performance is very variable. Some guys won't play that many clutch games, while other guys will be in the clutch every single night, so their stats will rise in those clutch times. I don't know where this award is going to end up, but so far, the best clutch player in the league, in my opinion, has been Damian Lillard. He's struggled in a lot of other aspects of the game, but when it gets to those final minutes and it's close, there's been nobody better in the league so far than Dame. He leads the league in both total clutch points and clutch points per game while scoring efficiently. The Bucks are 5-0 in clutch games too, so if they get to those moments, Dame's going to make sure that they don't lose. He's their closer. That's very clearly the role that he's in right now. Everybody in the Bucks knows that. The other team even knows that he's going to be the one trying to take the shots, but it still doesn't matter. He's been one of the most clutch players in the league really over the course of his entire career. I can tell you that firsthand as a Thunder fan, and he's doing it again in Milwaukee. He was my pick to win this award, and so far I think he's lived up to the hype. Some other players who are in contention include LeBron James. He's been fantastic in the clutch so far, stepping up in those fourth quarters for the Lakers. He's been their closer, and the Lakers have been pretty good in those clutch games up to this point. Steph Curry also up there in contention. The Warriors have been very up and down record-wise, but if they get into those final moments, Steph Curry is usually going to find a way to win, and he's been scoring a lot at the end of games. Tyrese Halliburton is another player who has been great in these clutch moments. We've seen him do it time and time again, knocking down big threes, setting up his teammates, so I think he's in contention. Shai Gilgeous Alexander just had a big 10-point overtime against the Warriors that really helped his clutch stats, so I could see him getting more into this conversation as the season goes on. I expect De'Aaron Fox to bounce back when he plays some more games because he just hasn't played enough games for me to consider him for this award, but if he ends up winning back-to-back, I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of players that could be in contention for Clutch Player of the Year. Kevin Durant and Luka Doncic also come to mind, but so far Dame has been the best. The penultimate award in this video is Sixth Man of the Year, and this one is very, very closely contested. Out of all the awards, I think this one's probably the closest at the moment. You could go with a number of different guys. I went back and forth myself, but I think I'm finally going to land on Emmanuel quickly. He was my pick coming into the year. He finished second last season, and so far, he's been great. He's again stepping up as that bench guard, facilitating, scoring at a high level, putting up right around 16 points per game despite playing limited minutes. But most importantly, he's been fantastic defensively. I don't think a lot of people realize how good Emmanuel quickly is on that defensive end. He's a big X factor for them when it comes to D, and he's a reason why they've been one of the best defenses in the league so far. I love what Emmanuel quickly brings to the table, even though he doesn't get a ton of minutes, and I feel like if you put him in a starting position somewhere, he thrives at an unreal level, but he buys into the six-man role for the Knicks. He's one of their most important pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and give him the nod for the moment. I do think a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. is very close. He's been amazing for the Mavericks, putting up right around 18 points per game while shooting over 40% from three. He's been fantastic. Caris LeVert also scoring at a high level for the Cavaliers off the bench. He's up there in those conversations. I think Chris Paul deserves some love, even though the scoring is definitely down compared to most six men. The playmaking has been huge, and he's a reason why the Warriors have survived in a lot of instances where Steph's off the court, which hasn't always been the case in the past. Naz Reid has been great, as always, for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Malik Monk has been one of the best clutch scorers for the Kings, especially, while De'Aaron Fox missed some time over the past few weeks. And also Lonnie Walker IV. The Nets got him on a minimum contract this offseason, and so far, he has far outplayed that, earning himself a pretty big payday the next time he's a free agent. And to go ahead and wrap things up, we've got the Most Valuable Player Award. This one also very closely contested, which is to be expected at the beginning of the season. I tried to figure out how much I want to weigh individual stats and actual team success so far because the standings are so close and, it's very early on. Teams haven't built a lot of separation. But I think ultimately, when factoring those two things in, I eventually landed on, to nobody's surprise probably, Nikola Jokic. Picked to win it coming into the season. He's been fantastic up to this point, putting up ridiculous stats across the board, a triple-double machine. The Nuggets are one of the top teams in the West, despite Jamal Murray missing a lot of this month of November. They've really missed him, but Jokic has still not missed a beat. He still looks like the best player in the world, keeping the Nuggets afloat. When Jamal comes back, they'll probably again be the 1 seed in the Western Conference. But for the moment, Jokic has picked up the slack. He's just a machine. It's going to be hard for anybody to take the award away from him this season. If the Nuggets finish as one of the top seeds with him putting up these level of statistics, I don't know how anybody ends up taking it away. But there are some guys who are certainly in contention. Joel Embiid, over there in the Eastern Conference right now. The Sixers have, like I said earlier, lost a little bit of steam as of late, but Embiid is still playing some fantastic basketball, been great both offensively and defensively. The playmaking has stepped up too in Nick Nurse's scheme. Loved what I've seen from him. I don't expect the voters to give him a back-to-back MVP, but I do think he's been one of the top contenders for the award so far this season. You've also got Shai over there for Oklahoma City. He's again putting up around 30 points per game. Been better playmaking this year. The defense continues to rise. He's somehow been even more efficient this season than he was last year. Shai's a monster, and when it comes to those clutch moments, he's going to go ahead and give you some of the toughest mid-range buckets possible. Shai's incredible. He's again making an All-NBA first-team case while also trying to compete for MVP, which he finished top 5 in last season. If the Thunder end up as a top 3 seed, I could see him getting a lot of love. You've also got Jason Tatum over there as the best player on the 1-seeded Boston Celtics. He's been fantastic so far. I think having some star teammates might detract a little bit away from him in the eyes of the voters, but if you ask me, I think Tatum should be considered a top 5 candidate at this point. Some other guys include Luka Doncic. He's been fantastic. It feels like only a matter of time until he wins an award, and if the Mavericks can stop this current slide that they're on and get back towards one of the top teams in the West, could finally be Luka's year. Giannis has been great so far. The Bucks are starting to find their footing. He's had some monster games as of late. Kevin Durant and LeBron James, I think, also are MVP candidates at the moment. The Suns have been missing Bradley Beal and Devin Booker for a lot of the year, but despite that, KD has been a monster, shooting over 50% from 3 while putting up 30 points per game. It feels like he somehow keeps getting better. And LeBron James is still one of the best players in the world at 57 years old. He's been the best player in the Lakers so far, their most consistent guy, and he's gotten them to the point that they are despite some injuries. Rounding things out, you've got Steph Curry, who's been fantastic even though the Warriors are struggling. If they can figure things out as a team, I wouldn't be surprised if he got some consideration. And Tyrese Halliburton, what he's done over there for Indiana so far, putting up 25 and 12 on unreal shooting splits, having them as the best offense in the league and a bona fide playoff team so far, I think that's worthy of some consideration. If the Pacers can find themselves with, say, home court advantage heading into the playoffs, I don't know why Tyrese can't get some love for MVP. With all that being said, those are my current picks for the first month NBA awards. Let me know down below in the comments who your current picks are. Is there anybody I forgot to mention for honorable mentions? And as always, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.